Hi, welcome back. I'm so excited to share that I've completed my first year of my MBA program. I'm finished with all of my classes, coursework, final exams. So on to second year we go. It has been a very fun but difficult and challenging first year. Not only academically, I've also had personal issues. I've had to navigate around grief and other things, but I'm so happy that most of that is behind me. I can look forward to being a second year, more travel, hopefully more leisure time, and just continuing to enjoy the experience. So today I wanted to talk about time management because that's one of the main questions I get from everyone. My classmates, anyone who knows me, they always ask, how do you do it all? How are you managing? I would say one of the main things is to stay organized, number one. For me, I have to put everything on my calendar. If I do not, I will not remember because there's just so much going on, so many things to stay on top of, I would not remember. So I put everything on my calendar. And sometimes, well, most times I even set reminders. So if there's, even for events, if there's an event, like I'll have a reminder like 3 days before, 24 hours before, even 15 minutes before, if it's like a Zoom call or something, so I remember. But if it's not on my calendar, I absolutely will not remember, or just it will slip through the cracks. Like I'm very conscious of this. So now whenever I make arrangements or there's things that need to be done, I put them on my calendar right away. I would say number two would be to do not procrastinate. Do not procrastinate. I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned. I've not been in school in a very long time, and I was never a procrastinator. I was always the type of person to get things done, to be able to relax, stay on top of things. I feel like I get adrenaline when I get things done ahead of time. I'm able to relax, enjoy myself. I am not someone who waits until last minute. Now, I would say this experience has been a little difficult for me just because I've not had a lot of time sometimes to do things way ahead of time. But I also do not like the feeling of submitting things last minute. I cannot. I know some people works best under pressure like that. I don't know if I can't even say if I'm one of those people because I just don't resort to that. I always try to plan ahead because number one, I do have a child. Anything can come up. She doesn't really get sick or anything, but if I get a call from a school or something that could derail me, she always has events, performances, field trips for me to chaperone. So I try to get things done way in advance as much as possible. One of the main ways I try to do this is when I'm on campus, I try to be as productive as possible. My friends, my classmates, they all know me. I'm the phone booth ghost. We have these like phone booths on campus. We had like 4 of them, and now we have 6. We have 2 more in ones, which I'm not gonna share where they are because then everyone is going to crowd to them because there's only 6 of them for, I would say, almost 2,000 students at any given time, and we all always have calls and stuff, so it's very difficult to get a hold of them. But I know where they are, and I know what time to come and get them. So that's one of the things. So I would say I do start my day very early because I do usually, most of the times, if not all the times, I do drop my daughter off to school. And because she has to be at school at a certain time, that forces me to be early. So I do prefer to take 9 a.m. classes because since I have to be up taking her to school anyways, it makes sense just for me to come on campus and have early classes. So there's been a few days like last term where I had, on Mondays, I only had class from 9:30 to 10:30, which was great. So from 10:30, I'm free. And usually within that time, I'll go in a phone booth, I'll do work. I'll like dedicate myself. Okay, from 10:30 to 12:30, I will maybe respond to emails, apply for internships or jobs, network, and then I'll have lunch from like 12:30 to 2:30, speak with friends, go to events, just be a little social on campus. And from 2:30 to maybe like 6, I would lock in because her dad picks her up on Monday, so that gives me more time to be on campus and do what I need to do. So within that time, I really make sure that I get as much done as possible to set myself up for a week. Like if I have any homework or any assignments that's due on Tuesday, Wednesday, usually not Tuesday because I don't push it the day before. Like Wednesday or Thursday, I would try to get as much done on Monday. If my Mondays are not as productive, it just makes my weeks so much more difficult because I would say I find doing work in the evening just doesn't work for me because by the time I get home, like I help my daughter with her work, we have dinner, it's time for her to go to bed, then I'm tired and it's time for me to go to bed. So the evenings just do not work. So I prefer to get the day started. I'm not a morning person, but I do prefer, since I have to be up to take her to school, to have an earlier start to my day in terms of classes, and then I have the rest of my time on campus to do work, to be social, network, have conversations, and that, because I find that also with my energy levels, like I have a lot of energy throughout the day, and it starts to dwindle after 6 p.m., 7 p.m. So I really try to take as much advantage of that prime time as much as I can. So that's one thing. Get on campus as early as I can, and it's usually quiet in the mornings. Another thing would be if I don't have a class at 9 a.m. and I have a class at 10:50, I'm usually at campus by 9 anyways. So that also gives me at least an hour and a half to 2 hours where I can also get work done, read for classes, respond to emails. There's always so much work to do. There's never an opportunity for just not to have anything to do. So even if it's just frivolous things, or even if I feel like catching up on videos and phone conversations, I always try to take advantage of like my time in between classes and time on campus to do as much as possible. Now, we also don't have classes on Fridays, and I would say I always do work on Fridays, because if I don't do work on Fridays, that means my Sundays or my Saturdays are going to be very miserable, and I don't like that. So for me, Fridays, I try to relax. I do take a good 4-hour nap. Just to be honest, I'm a napper. So when I don't have classes, I do take my nap to kind of recoup. And then I'll do like small little assignments or get a head start on stuff that's due on Sunday night or on Monday. So for me, that really works. If I take Friday off, again, Sunday, I'm not a happy person, because then I'm like flustered. I have this that's due. I have to do this, I have to do that. Or Saturday, I'm working, which is not ideal. I prefer to do a little bit of work on Friday and relax on Saturdays, and Sundays, if I need to just do like a final run through, that works. And that's been working really well for me, versus if I take Friday off, Sundays, I'm just like the most anxious, upset, annoyed person, because I feel overwhelmed. I have so much to do. I have to get ready for the week. So I think trying to be productive as much as you can Monday through Friday works really well for me. Again, understand that the evenings are just not as possible. Like I might be able to do small things, look at small quizzes, but in terms of full-time like assignments or long teamwork and projects on the weekends, just not during the week, evenings, not really possible. Same goes for evening classes. I usually, as I mentioned, prefer earlier classes during the day. I love me at 9 a.m. Again, I have to be up anyways, so 9 a.m. usually works for me. The latest I like my classes to end is maybe 4. I know sometimes class ends at 5:35. I prefer not to take those classes. I actually had a 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. class, 6 p.m. to 9:15 once a week. That was a stretch. I've started to realize that maybe I won't be taking any more of those classes unless it's a class that I absolutely have to take. Just because, again, as I mentioned, I feel like I just get so tired towards the end of the day, because I'm up early, so I'm on campus at 9. And even if I try to go home during that time, because I live close by, and take a nap, which is amazing. I love that I'm able to walk and go take a nap and walk back to campus, no rush. But even with that, that's not ideal. It's not optimal. So taking those night classes, I don't think I'll be taking any more of that. Now, it was incredibly convenient taking a class once a week, but I just find that like the 6 to 9, I'm just way too tired and not as engaged as I need to be. So that's that. I just prefer the 9 a.m. classes or the 10:50 classes, and I prefer my classes to be over with at 3:50. That just gives me a lot more flexibility if I need to, stay on campus a little bit to do work. Actually, when my classes end at 3:50, I usually just I sit in a public area and I go find one of my friends, or we just find someone and we'll just have conversations. It's a great time to catch up with folks. So that's why I prefer that. But yeah, I'm not a late. I don't like to have really late classes. And also 3:50 is still a good time if I want to go and do something with my daughter. That's still a good time where I can go and still do work with her, or go for a walk or just do something rather than just be rushing with later time slots. So that's some of my main advice for time management is to, number one, be as organized as possible with your calendar. 2, do not procrastinate. And 3, take advantage of being on campus as much as possible. Like, and for me, kind of also too, I would say, figuring out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. For me, again, I live very close to the main campus and the business school, which thank God, because initially I was going to live very far away and I was not happy, quite frankly. I didn't want to move closer, which I'm so happy I did because it's made my life so much easier. Even like today, I'm able to just come on campus, no hassle. It's a short walk. Yeah, both campuses, and there's been many instances because the business school, while we do have 2 buildings, it's bigger compared to when the business school was at the main campus. It's still like there's about 2,000 students at any given time between first years and second years. It can feel like crowded. The reason why it's so quiet right now is because everyone's on summer break. We just had finals week last week, or everyone's traveling, no one's really here. But usually when classes are going on, it's very bustling. It's very difficult to find quiet space or study space unless you reserve it way in advance. Even interview rooms, I would say the university has made it a great priority when they designed the newer campus. It's very inclusive of study rooms. We have a lot of interview rooms, but again, there's so many students, it's very difficult. Now, you can always pop in and find a room for a couple of minutes and so, but someone like me who likes to like lock things down for the day, or that makes it difficult. So there's been many instances where I've even gone to the main campuses. Again, same thing, I'll go to the main campus at 9 a.m. on Fridays. I'll find like my area and I'll just camp out for the day, because also something with the main campus is a lot of people. And if you don't go there, I've noticed that too, if you don't get to the main campus by like 9:30 or so, forget it. Like trying to find a good spot, like I have my preferred locations, it can get challenging, especially during final week and midterm week. So I would say kind of figure out if you study best at home or you study best on campus. I get very distracted at home, so I prefer to come on campus, even like a day like today. It's just quieter, it's easier to be productive. I feel like I'm in a learning environment versus I feel like I'm at home, I might be tempted to take a nap, which if I need to take a nap, I'm gonna take a nap. That's just who I am, because I never get enough sleep. I don't, and that's a problem I have where I don't go to bed early enough. That's a story for another day. So if I'm at home, I feel like I need to take a nap, I need to clean something, I need to do this, I need to do that. Versus when I'm on campus, I'm like, okay, I'm here for a short amount of time, even if it's 8 hours, I need to lock in and I need to get as much done as possible. So that's my main advice, kind of figuring out what works for you, what routine. Now, if I need to get stuff done while I'm at home, I just need to and I have to do it. But for the most part, I prefer to come on campus and like dedicate myself, because I find that it's also like forces me, because it's like, okay, I'm here for 5 hours, that's it, I'm gonna lock in and get this done. Versus when I'm at home, I'm like, yeah, there's no rush per se. So, or I'll make it a point to, okay, on Fridays, when I come at 9 a.m., I need to be done at like 12:30 or 1 so I can go home and have lunch, because then I'll start to want to get lunch, and I'm not trying to buy lunch on campus. Because while we do usually have events during the week, Fridays can be a little slower, so there's less free food floating around. So that's usually my thing, like, okay, I'm gonna grind, I'll bring little snacks, but by 12:31, when I know it's gonna be lunchtime, I need to be finished with whatever I'm doing so I can go home and get lunch. Versus if I'm at home, I'm like, it's right here, there's no rush, you know? So I would say definitely figuring out like the routine and what works for you, what works best for you. Sometimes it's trial and error. You're gonna have days where you're incredibly motivated, and then you're gonna have days where you're tired. I've been there, I know what it is, but it's just kind of like figuring out what keeps you going, remembering your why, because it's gonna be challenging, and just, speak to others. Sometimes, friends really help you. Like I'll speak to my friends again about like going to main campus, like the hideouts, where to study, where to do this. So I would say definitely always leverage your network and your support system, even within your friends. Sometimes while I'm on campus, I'll run into friends and we're in the same classes and we'll sit together and get work done. And just being like in a productive environment like that really, really helps. Like just sitting at the table. And sometimes it's like they're like, okay, we're working on this. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll work on this too. And there's sometimes I'm like, I like sitting with you. I get so much done. Like, I love that. Like, sitting with certain folks and you're all just grinding, like, trying to get as much work done as possible because it forces you. You don't want to be the one person, like, disrupting everyone. So I would say definitely find, like, you know, if there's a few people that you do homework with or study with, for sure, use those resources, leverage them. Again, it's difficult. You don't have a lot of time. Like I said, as much as I would love to get things done way ahead of time sometimes, it's just not practical because you always have competing priorities. So again, managing your time and being mindful of certain things. And even for me as a parent, it is difficult because, you know, I have a child who's very active. She's very involved. She has a lot of extracurricular activities. And most of the times, well, all the times, I actually take her. And for me, it's important to be productive during those times. There's days when I will just chat with parents because that is also very important too. You do learn a lot from speaking with other parents, but there's days when I'll go and I'm like, okay, ballet, I have to respond to emails. If you know me very well, you know when my child does ballet or when she swims on Saturdays, because that's the time I'm returning calls or returning texts or responding to emails or sometimes reading. So it is important to be productive during those times rather than just sitting there. Or like some days I get there and I'm like, I'm tired, or I've been very productive all week. I'm not going to do anything today. I'm just going to listen to a podcast or catch up on certain things. No, though self-care is actually very important. Like I said, I take my naps. So, but you have to be, you know, judicial about that. But yes, I definitely try to be productive. And like I said, even with managing her and her extracurricular activities, most of their activities are within a very small radius. So even on Saturdays, while we're swimming or after swimming, I'm like, okay, we'll go to the library. We'll pick up our new set of books for this week. We'll return the books from last week. So just trying to optimize, you know, your schedule, your time, so you're not always pressed and rushing, which sometimes, again, it happens because you're being pulled in so many different directions. But I would say just trying to figure out what works for you. But that's all. Thank you so much for listening. I felt like I've said a lot, even I did not intend for this to be so long. But thank you, and I'll catch you in the next